Well, hello there, my friend. My name is Gavin. Of course, you know that. We're friends. But this is my channel. Glad you're here. We were supposed to spend a little time together during live earlier today, during the hearing of Stephan Stearns, wherein he changed his plea. Unfortunately, for you and I got called into a lunch meeting that I had to take at my day job. It was a great meeting. So it's not unfortunate for just me. It was a great meeting. I'm glad that I was there, but it did mean that we missed watching this hearing together. And I was kind of bummed about that and thought, well, there goes Monday. But then I thought, no, let's recap it. Let's watch it together and talk about some of the things that we hear and see in this hearing. So that's what we're doing tonight. Now, what I've done is I have prepared the hearing. I have that everybody does this weird audio in these hearings where it's coming out of one channel. It's so dumb. So I have made it so that at least it's in stereo. It really ends up being mono because I'm just duplicating one channel. But either way, it's going to come out of both of your speakers. And I've bumped up the audio a little bit, but I want to give you a heads up. It's going to be bad audio. Okay. The other thing I want to give you a heads up on is this is an hour and 3 minutes and 27 seconds. I'm going to do my very best to not make it so that we're here for 2 hours, right? But on this channel, on these videos, I do tend to pause them. My headphones are falling there. I do tend to pause. Oh my goodness, dying. There we go. It looks horrible. It doesn't matter. Okay. I do tend to pause and make some comments along the way. So I reserve the right to do that. And then I know if that bothers you, you're on the wrong channel. I mean, I love you, but you're on the wrong channel. That's what we're going to do. Okay, but before we get into this, guys, let me just remind you that over on the website, there's a link to it down below. We are playing the Great 2025 Baby Gavin Treasure Hunt, where we are working to solve 20 clues that a missing baby Gavin has left behind in order to solve the mystery of how he went missing. If you click on the link below, you will find it. And if you can register for the game, you can have a good time with us. There's like 400 of us playing. How many? It's so many. It's so many. Please play along. I think everybody's having fun. Now, there have been bugs, there have been little snafus, but as we go along, I've been doing my best to fix them. Please join us for the treasure hunt. And while I've got you over on here, if you click on this little button right here, that will take you over to the fish tank where we hang out on Facebook. So I invite you to hang out with us over on Facebook. There's a lot of conversation going on in the tank. Okay, so that's my plug. That's my only plug. We're gonna hop into it. Okay, so let's bring you over here. I have bumped up the volume, guys, and I've brought my spoken volume a little bit down to try to match. But hopefully it's not going to blow out your eardrums here. Here we go.
2024 CF 632. The court has also received an addendum to the plea form. Ms. Borden, Ms. Smith, do you wish to walk me through the terms of the agreement?
Yes, Judge. In exchange, Mr. Stearns will be entering a plea in the 693 case, the counts 1 through 20. The state will be under counsel and no process 21 through 60. It's going to run concurrently with the 1293 case and adjudication of guilt as to each life concurrent, and then additionally on clear.
Thank you.
Life concurrent.
And state as to the addendum. I'm going to ask the folks that have joined us remotely to please mute their microphones. State any special considerations in the addendum to the plea form.
No, Your Honor,
We are just incorporating the plea addendum into the plea.
A lot of you have watched this already. I have not. So what I heard is he'll be pleading guilty to the 692 case, life without parole, all concurrent. Is that what I heard?
State of Florida filed a notice of intent to seek the penalty of death. That was on June 7th, 2024. Is the state formally going to be withdrawing that notice of intent to seek the penalty of death?
After the acceptance of the plea and pronouncement of sentence, yes.
Thank you. Should that announcement be made by the state of Florida, the proposed sentence will be the maximum sentence allowed by law? Mr. Stephan, I'm going to place you under oath.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you are about to enter into this case to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
So this is the section where the judge wants to make sure that the plea he enters is
I have two plea forms in my hand.
that he's
One document looks
doing
like
so
this.
knowingly.
Second document looks like this. They're each plea forms for your respective cases. They each have a signature. That signature is the same on both plea documents. That signature is next to my finger. Can you tell me if that is your signature?
It's hard to tell from here.
Deputy, will you provide these forms?
Yes, Your Honor.
Defendant?
I'm just showing you the docket. There have been a lot of changes on the docket here.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. What your signature and a set of initials after each of the 26 paragraphs on each document, those initials being SS, tell me is that you have had an opportunity to read these documents. Do you have any difficulty reading and writing the English language?
I have no difficulty.
And your signature indicates that you are aware of each of the 26 paragraphs and all of the terms and conditions of these two documents. Is that correct?
That is correct.
I have a secondary document. It is an addendum to the plea form. That document is 4 pages long. It appears to have the same initials on the bottom of each of the pages, as well as a signature at the conclusion of the case along with your attorney, Ms. Borden and Ms. Smith. I'm going to ask the deputies to please provide this document to you, and I'm going to ask you to verify that this is your signature.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, it is.
What your signature on this document tells me is that you have had an opportunity to read this document, go over it with your attorneys, and you understand the 13 additional conditions of your plea agreement. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Each of the plea form goes over what your trial rights would be. In 2024 CF 1293, you are charged with the allegation of first-degree premeditated murder. In 2024 CF 632,
We're going to find out here,
charged
Jess.
with 60 counts. The first 9 counts being sexual battery with a child 12 to 18 years of age. Counts 10 through 13 being sexual battery with a child 12 to 18 years of age. Counts 14 through 20 being lewd or lascivious molestation. Counts 21 through 60 being unlawful possession of materials depicting sexual performance by a child 10 or more images.
Your Honor, counts 1 through 8 are sexual battery on a child under 12.
My apologies. Counts 1 through 8 are capital sexual battery on a child under 12.
Capital.
The plea form contemplates in 2024 CF 1293 one count of murder, first degree, capital offense. Plea form on 24 CF 632 contemplates counts 1 through 8, 9 through 13, and 14 through 20. With the representation that the state of Florida is withdrawing their notice of intention to seek the penalty of death upon acceptance of this plea, the maximum potential sentence on 24 CF 1293 would be life in prison without possibility of parole. Has the maximum sentence been explained to you?
Yes, Your Honor.
And in 24 CF 632, counts 1 through 8, the maximum potential sentence would be a mandatory sentence of life in prison without possibility of parole. 9 through 13 and 14 through 20 would be first-degree felony allegations with a maximum potential sentence of up to life in prison. You understand those maximum potential sentences on that case?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand that you have a right to have a jury trial as to each of these allegations? And at the jury trial, the state of Florida would have to prove those allegations against you beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt. At that trial, your attorneys would be with you. They are experienced, board-certified criminal expert trial attorneys. They would be cross-examining witnesses, examining the evidence against you. You would have a right to present your own witnesses and your own evidence. If you had witnesses that did not want to come to court, you could have asked me to make them come to court with a subpoena. You could have spoke at your trial, or you could have exercised your right to remain silent and not spoken. That would have been your decision after you talked those decisions over with your attorneys, and your jury would have been instructed not to consider your decision to remain silent in any way in rendering a verdict. You would have had a right to have your trial recorded and appeal any errors that occurred in the process. Do you understand you are giving up all of your trial rights if the court accepts this plea? Because I will
I'm going to pause right here. I do not believe that Jennifer Soto was in court today.
be imposing the sentence that you have agreed with the state of Florida to be imposed upon you, and we will not be having a trial on any of these matters. Do you understand those things?
I understand.
And, Your Honor, just for record purposes, counts 9 through 13 are first-degree felonies punishable by life, as the court indicated. Count 14 through 20 are actually life felonies.
I don't think she was there, Casey.
These are life felonies with a minimum mandatory of 25 years. Is life a required sentence, or would that be a punishable by life offense?
It's a life, punishable by life offense. I just wanted the record to be clear. This court indicated first-degree felonies, punishable by life. I just wanted the record to be clear that 14 through 20 are life felonies with 25-year minimum mandatories.
We're going to find out here, Bonnie. Thank you for asking. I'll have plenty to say.
So the plea form indicates that these are first-degree felonies. These are actually either capital offenses or punishable by life offenses. Do you understand that, Mr. Stearns?
Yes, Your Honor.
Sorry, Figueroa. It says you can tell the judge was hiding his contempt as best he can.
Is anyone
Thanks for the
forcing
super
you
chat.
or pressuring you into make the decision to resolve your case this way?
No, Your Honor.
Has anyone made you any other promises other than what has been presented to you as the agreed-upon sentence?
No, Your Honor.
Are you under the influence of any alcohol, drugs, or mental issues that cause you not to understand the decision that you are making?
I am not.
Do you understand if you are not a United States citizen, that entry of this plea would subject you to deportation proceedings?
Yes.
And if you ever before had been convicted of a sexually violent or a sexually motivated offense, Entry of this plea would have subjected you to involuntary civil commitment at the conclusion of any incarcerative sentence. Do you understand that's the state of Florida law?
Yes.
Ms. Smith, do you have any competency concerns regarding Mr. Stern's fitness to accept this plea agreement?
No, Judge.
Ms. Borden?
No, Your Honor.
This is a great comment. Thanks,
Stearns,
Jennifer.
based on your responses to the court, based on your indicating that you have reviewed this decision with your attorneys, based on your initialing of the plea form and your acknowledgement that you understand all the terms and conditions, rights and obligations on these plea forms, including the addendum, the court is going to make a determination that you are alert, that you have had an opportunity to discuss this with your attorneys, that you are making this decision freely and voluntarily and without coercion. The court accepts your plea. Let me see the attorneys.
I did a little edit here because I didn't want to sit for half an hour. But he does a sidebar. And you'll see the edit there. I did that.
Plea of no contest as to 24 CF 1293, the first degree premeditated murder of Madeline Soto. Mr. Stearns, how do you plea to first degree premeditated murder in 24 CF 1293?
No contest.
Okay, so he's pleaded he's pleaded guilty to the 60 counts on the first case, as I understand it, and no contest to the murder charge. Okay.
And as to counts 1 through 8,
I don't know why he'd do that.
capital sexual battery of Madeline Soto.
You guys understand that, I mean, there's a legal difference between the two, but the result is the same, right? So the difference simply is that with a guilty plea, you're admitting you're guilty. With a no contest plea, you're admitting that the state likely could prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you are guilty. Kind of feels like you're splitting hairs there. I mean, it's an important difference. I'm not mad that he pleaded no contest because the end result is the same. It doesn't matter. He's not saying that he's guilty. What he's saying is the state could prove that I am. So I'm okay with it. A lot of people are upset about it. I've seen comments. I've seen it in the tank. I've seen it here in the live stream. I'm not as upset about it because ultimately it's the exact same punishment, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but it doesn't bother me. I wouldn't expect a guy like this. I would not expect a guy like Stephan Stearns to freely admit that he that he murdered somebody that he loved when he hasn't this whole time. I just don't buy it. I just wouldn't expect it. He's too. To me, it feels like he thinks that he's too smart for the room. That's what it feels. But ultimately, he's not going to be able to appeal this. He's giving up his right to appeal, and I'm happy with that.
While she was under the age of 12, counts 9 through 13, sexual battery of Madeline Soto between the ages of 12 and 18, and counts 14 through 20, lewd or lascivious molestation. How do you plead?
Guilty.
Prior to sentencing, does the state care to offer any victim impact testimony?
Impact statements are always the saddest, man. I hope it's cathartic for them. I really do. I think that if I were asked to give an impact
The first
statement,
would be
I
a
would
written statement from Madeline's maternal grandmother.
Madeline's maternal grandmother is Yolanda Zambrano.
Yolanda Zambrano.
This is a written statement.
Today I stand before you with a broken soul. I am Madeline's grandmother, but to her I was not grandma. Madeline always called me Mama. She decided that since she was little. And that's how I felt with her, like a second mother who loved her with all my heart. Madeline was a happy little girl. She loved going shopping with me. That excited her so much that it felt like everything around us turned into color. I remember her face lighting up when we went to the stores. Holding hands, laughing together in those moments, we connected, and I felt like she knew she was loved, protected, and valued. At night, we loved to play. It was in those moments, just before bed, that she laughed the most. Sometimes it's hard for me to close my eyes because I still hear her laughter. It was free, sweet, and sincere laugh. A sound I will never forget as long as I live. But that laughter was silenced by a horrific act. The very man who betrayed her trust, her innocence, her body. And if that wasn't enough damage, he took her life. And with her, he killed a piece of our souls. Since then, life has never been the same. Our family is empty and broken. There are days when the pain is so great that I feel like I'm drowning. And every time I think of everything she could have been, everything that was stolen from her, it hurts even more. Because Maddie wasn't just a victim. She was a little girl with a beautiful future, with a unique light, with so much love to give and receive. Today I am here because Maddie can no longer speak, but I can as her grandmother. As someone who loved her with all that I am, I come to ask for justice for her memory, for everything she lived through and should never have lived through. Justice so that no one else has to go through such a horror. I will never forget Maddie, her voice, her laughter, her eyes, her dreams. All of that lives in me, and so it will live forever. My beautiful girl, one day we will be reunited and we will never be separated again. I love you with all my heart. Thank you for listening to me with deep pain and eternal love.
Yeah. While we're waiting for the next one, I honestly would not give a victim impact statement. And if you look out there, you won't see.
This is a statement
Jennifer
from
Soto.
Angelica Negro Guerrero. My name is Angelica Negro Guerrero. I lived with Maddie and Jennifer in the same house for about 2.5 years.
Angelica, if you'll remember, was the roommate. And if I remember correctly, she is the roommate where Stearns had taken photos of her under the door, if I remember correctly.
Today, I take the liberty of expressing myself not just as a roommate, but as part of the family, as Maddie told me several times. How can I explain how this tragedy has impacted my life? There are so many emotions. I am an immigrant, and I have lived in this country for 4 years. I left my country, Venezuela, alone with just a suitcase in my hand in search of a better future. Venezuela has been going through the worst moment in history, run by people blinded by power and money, people who have stolen the future of so many. I've always been against injustice, abuse, corruption, and evil in general. I couldn't picture myself living in a country where I had to witness every single day how a small, corrupt group destroyed countless families and the beauty of my nation. And that's exactly why it has been so devastating for me to experience something so tragic, so close to me after coming here with a hope for a better life. I ended up living under the same roof with a man who took the life of a 13-year-old girl, and with that shattered an entire family. What is the point of having dreams, plans, and opportunities if there is no life? If there is so much evil in the world? How can I explain what I felt and how this has affected me, especially considering that this same man took nude photos of my body without my consent, violating my privacy? I felt invaded, outraged, degraded, anguished, and absolutely shattered. I constantly think that my life was in danger too. I could have died. I am also a victim. And the only reason I'm here to write this is because God is great and I know I'm under his protection. This has affected my emotional, physical, and financial stability. I haven't been able to live with strangers ever again. Right now, I rent an apartment by myself. I pay it with all my effort just to feel safe and at peace. If I already had trouble trusting people before, now it's even harder. I can't imagine even handling a neighbor too close because it gives me anxiety.
I'm going to
I
address
tried
this,
to
Sherry.
get psychological help to move forward, but this is something that will forever remain in my memory.
I don't want to talk over Angelica here. Sherry, I'm going to address this as soon as Angelica's statement is finished, okay? So I'm going to keep this comment up for a bit.
Continue to affect me deeply. To this day, I wish I could wake up and realize none of this ever happened, that this was just a nightmare. I wish I could still be spending time with Maddie, making her arepas with cheese and butter like she loved, and practicing our languages together. Me learning English and her learning Spanish. I'll never forget the words she always told Jennifer. Mommy, I would love to learn Spanish so I can talk a lot with Angelica. I think about all the time, and I wish it had been me who spoke English fluently back then. Maybe she would have opened up to me about the hell she was going through with that horrible man. I want justice for Madeline and for all the girls and women who have lived through something similar. I want him to pay for all the pain he caused her and the beautiful family I love with all my heart. I send all my love to the sky to Madeline so her soul may find peace. Angelica.
That was a beautifully written letter. Real quick, Sherry says, I'm so tired of our legal system giving everyone a pass plea. He should never have been able to use no contest with a plea deal. I'm not as angry about no contest. He's guilty. The court finds him guilty. Maybe it's not as satisfying, but I don't know that we would ever feel satisfaction with anything he would say. And, anything. I don't think we would be satisfied with it. I do feel that we do too many plea deals in the United States. The legal system is built for plea deals. The vast majority of cases are settled on a plea. But the only thing that the state gave up here was DP. The DP. That's it. Everything else, he's going to be in prison for the rest of his life. It probably will end up being cheaper to imprison him for the next 50 years rather than going through all of the appeals process. Because remember, by pleading guilty, he gives up his rights to appeal. So I feel your pain. I totally do. But I'm still okay with it.
This is from Zemina Zambrano, a cousin to Maddie Soto.
Maybe.
To the Honorable Court, we write this letter with broken hearts still aching from the devastating loss of our beloved Maddie Soto. The pain of losing her is something no family should ever have to endure. But the nature of her death, the cruelty, the abuse, the inhumanity has inflicted a level of trauma and sorrow that words can scarcely convey. Maddie was more than a victim. She was a daughter, a granddaughter, a cousin, a niece, and a cherished soul in our close-knit and loving family. To know her was to love her. Her spirit, her kindness, and her light remained with us even though her life was so brutally taken. She was not only murdered, she was discarded like she was nothing, thrown into the wilderness. That image haunts our minds and wounds our hearts every day. Our grief has been compounded by the public scrutiny and the cruelty of strangers who speculate and judge without knowing the depth of our loss or the strength of our bond. We are a large family rooted in love, faith, and mutual support, and this tragedy has shaken us to our core, mentally, emotionally, and physically. Many of us suffer sleepless nights, constant anxiety, and depression. The trauma has left scars that will last a lifetime. We turn to God for comfort, and we trust that divine justice will ultimately be done. But we also place our faith in this court to uphold what is just and right. Maddie deserves that. Our family deserves that. We beg you to consider the profound impact this crime has had, not just on one individual, but on an entire family and community. Please ensure that the individual who committed this horrifying act is held fully accountable. Justice for Maddie cannot bring her back, but it can ensure that her life and her death are not dismissed or dishonored. Let there be no leniency for this cruelty. Let there be no question about the value of her life. Let justice be done. Sincerely, Jimena, please, on behalf of the Zambrano family.
I'm going to pause here for a second. Derek's comment says, is there anything in the law stating he still has to be in protective isolation? Because I thought he would be retired to general population when he left court today. Every place is different, okay? But protective custody is not anything that is typically ordered by the court, as I understand it, at least in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Basically, when a person is placed in the custody of the state bears responsibility for that person's safety. Whether that person is a murderer, a child predator, or, I don't know, a rabbi, a pastor, a priest, it doesn't, when they're in the custody of the state has the responsibility of their care and safety. So the likelihood that Mr. Stearns would ever be in general population is very, very low. The state would have to feel like he's not in danger by putting him into general population. Now, that's not to say that there aren't human emotions. There aren't. I mean, I'm writing a series right now about the prison system in Pennsylvania, where I feel like corrections officers, staff, leadership of our county jails are punitively abusing inmates. So is it possible that Mr. Stearns gets a, I don't know, sadistic CO and puts him in Gen Pop? Yeah, it's possible. But the law is that they should be caring for his safety, his welfare. And that sucks to a lot of us who really have these deep feelings of Schadenfreude where we really want him to get what's coming to him. But as I've said before on this channel, I really feel like that is an emotion that we need to fight back against. That is something we do not want to feel. It is a useless emotion. It's natural to feel it, but we shouldn't be acting on those things. That is my opinion. It's like jealousy and envy. I just feel like they're just wasted emotion. We should be seeking after love. We should be seeking after grace, mercy, and justice. Not we shouldn't be, and I'm not saying that you feel this way. I'm just kind of going on a rant here. We shouldn't want for Mr. Stearns like abuse at the hand of some other inmate because of what he did. It's perfectly natural to feel that, but I think it's useless. I think Mr. Stearns will be in protective custody for the rest of his natural life. That's what I think. That's yeah, and if the state deems that appropriate, I hope they do it. Okay, and by the way, that letter by her cousin from the Sombrano family, such a such well thought out and well, uh, what do I want to say? It's well emoted, right? I sat in a hearing like this, a sentencing hearing like this, one time where the the poor victim's family, all they did was say, I only hate this person now. I never had hate in my heart. Now I have hate in my heart. I only feel hate. And that is so sad for that family. So I'm grateful that this letter said, we will seek justice in this life. We will have faith that heavenly or eternal, or however they said it, justice will be doled out. I think that's a good way to be able to live your life for the rest of your life. Remember, these cousins, grandparents, everybody in Madeline's life that have lost her will feel that loss forever. And for the rest of their life, they will feel it. And that happens to all of us, whether we lose somebody because of illness or accident or crime. Or nature, right? We feel those things, but it is better to have mercy in our heart, grace in our heart, and let justice, give justice to a higher power, if you believe. in the. Anyway, my 2 cents. Yeah, let's continue.
Ma'am, can you tell the court your name?
My name is Leticia Nunez. I was Madeline's aunt.
Can you spell your first and last name for the court report?
Letizia. Last name Nunez. Nunez. To Maddie.
Leticia Nunez.
When I was 7 years old, a beautiful newborn baby was brought into our lives. And I remember being so excited because I was going to be an aunt. You gave me a sense of responsibility from such a young age because I wanted nothing more at that time than to help take care of you, play with you, and overall just make you a happy baby. You're truly missed every single day. I miss your laugh. I miss your smile. I miss your big, beautiful blue eyes. I miss doing the little things like picking you up from school, helping you with your homework, even though we both hated doing that. I just miss you and your presence. But that unfortunately was taken from us. I have so much hatred in my heart, specifically for the creature that's sitting in this room today.
I'm so sorry for her.
And no matter what happens or what justice could be brought, it kills me that it doesn't bring me back. I would give up my life if it meant having you here with us. Even though I was your aunt, you always felt much more like a little sister to me. Doing your hair for the father-daughter dances that my dad would take you to, letting you pick out clothes from my closet, doing your makeup and making sure it was very light because your natural beauty was worth more than any makeup product money could buy. I just miss you every single day, and it's left a hole in my heart from the day you've been gone. Your innocence was taken from you, and since clearly that wasn't enough for a certain someone, so was your life. You were the bravest little girl I've ever met, full of love, light, laughter, and as any positive thing I could think of, you were all of those things. I'm so blessed to have spent 13 years with someone so wonderful, and you're going to live on through all of us. Not because of what happened to you, because that didn't define who you were. I'm going to make sure my future kids know who you are, and make sure my grandkids know who you are, and so on. Today I sit here before everyone, and all I can say is that despite what anyone thinks they know, you were so loved by each and every one of your family members, and
Melissa, I'm going to answer this one as soon as we're done with this impact statement.
I know you left this world knowing that. I know it would pain you to see what people have to say about your loved ones, but what I think of it all is that, and what I'd want you to think up in heaven is that it's all just noise. And I find comfort in the fact that we, your family, know you were beyond loved and beyond cared for. I'm so sorry we found out too late. But despite everything that was happening to you behind closed doors, you still remained one of the happiest human beings I've ever met. Someone who loved us deeply and made us all smile. Trying to find light in this horrible situation is very difficult, but one thing I am grateful for is that your last day on this earth was everything you wanted and more. You got the birthday you asked for. Your best friends were able to be with you. We cooked the food you specifically asked for, and overall I have the memory of sitting outside by my pool looking at you and your friends and just thinking, I'm so glad she's having a great time. And look at how grown up she is. How she's blossoming into such an amazing young woman. I could go on forever, but I just want to leave this here by saying I love you so much, and I miss you endlessly. Everything I do from now on, any accomplishments, any decisions I make, anything that happens in my life, I'm going to do it for you and in your honor. I love you, Madeline Soto, and I hope you're resting peacefully now.
That was simultaneously beautiful and sad. I'm very sorry for her. Melissa says, why were the impact statements read by attorneys? Were they not permitted in court? No, it's because they elected not to be there, or not to. They might be there and just don't want to read it. They aren't required to do it. They can submit it in writing. They can do it orally. My suspicion is they just elected to submit it in writing and not stand up in court and read it. Maybe it was just too painful for them. All right, let's keep going.
Can you tell the court your name and then spell your first and last name for the court reporter?
Natalie Rosero, Nathalie.
This is the other roommate.
Thank you, Your Honor, for for having me here today. I've known the family for over 15 years. I am best friends with Maddie's aunt and was roommates with Maddie and her mom during the time her life was ended. All of our kids are the same age, so we always try to keep them united and spend as many holidays together. I have years worth of beautiful pictures, birthdays, Christmas, and Easters we all spent together. Those are the moments I try to hold on to as I stand here today. I'm here to express what the past year and a half has been like in my experience. From the moment we found out that Maddie went missing, life has never been the same.
I'm going to interrupt Natalie here for a second. Hugging demons. It boils down to how quickly somebody can put in the Sunshine Law request. Once the request is in, that's when the office that has it, probably the state's attorney's office there for the 9th District, will have to go through and prepare that for the FOIA. It will cost a lot of money because it's big. It will include things that, of course, we don't want to see and are illegal to disseminate. It will not include those things. But it just boils down to who is going to step up and say, I want the whole file, and I'm willing to pay for it.
Those first 48 hours we set out to look for her, we spread flowers, went knocking on door to door, going to every business down John Young Parkway from Kissimmee to Sand Lake, asking for the public's help. All while seeing my best friend and her family have emotional breakdowns, feeling completely helpless and terrified for Maddie, thinking how could anyone just take her. It turns out we spent almost 3 days looking in the wrong location because Stephan lied to us about where he last saw her. Your Honor, that's the first time in my life I've ever felt true hate for anyone. The following days were filled with more sadness and distraught. We went from searching for a missing person to looking for a body. I had been searching for her as if my son was missing, so it was very difficult to accept that. We spent the rest of the week canvassing St. Cloud until they eventually found her body. Although there was a moment of relief that at least her body was found, that was the last sense of relief I've felt since that day. I was confident I had the power of discernment, but I couldn't even see the evil living in the same house. As details of the sexual abuse and her death came to light, you start to question everything. I even questioned my own faith.
That's true, Danielle.
Having a full night's sleep became a luxury I could not afford. I was too anxious to sleep, constantly wanting to wake up from a nightmare. It wasn't until I started wishing death on him that I realized I needed help. I started going to therapy to try to deal with the grief and anger of losing Maddie the way we did. I also had to navigate my son's emotions as he finds out the cruelty that exists in this world. Holidays are not the same. The void is loud. It's hard to trust people. I am very guarded. I am hoping that when everything here is said and done, there can be some type of closure, even though Maddie's life can never be replaced. That is the only reason I am here today. As decisions are made, please keep in mind that she wasn't even my child, and I feel this way. I cannot imagine the pain, trauma, and deception that Maddie's family has experienced. I do not wish this pain and suffering on any other child or family. Thank you, Your Honor.
It's interesting that everybody talks about Maddie's family.
Stephanie
Nobody
online
brings up
would like
Maddie's
to
mother.
report.
Very interesting. And it looks like on the side behind Stearns, we've got mostly reporters.
We're joined by an online presence. Stephanie, you may unmute your microphone and let the court know how this has affected your family and yourself.
Can you tell the court your first and last name and spell them, please?
I can see that her microphone is still muted.
Can you hear me, Judge?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Sorry, trying to help.
That looks to be Yolanda Zambrano right
To
there.
the court. Maddie brought a light into her. Maddie brought a light into my life that I would never be able to describe, with her outgoing personality and her infectious smile.
I believe this is Stephanie Soto.
Her infectious laugh. She was so kind-hearted, adventurous, and loving. Now that she's gone, everything's changed. The silence where her laughter used to be is deafening. The hole in my heart is bottomless, and the pain is indescribable.
We're going to talk about this, Shelley. Thank you.
My family's life has been shattered. What we've endured and what we will continue to endure for the rest of our lives is a kind of pain that I do not wish on anyone. No family should have to lose a loved one in this horrible manner, especially at such a young. Her life was taken. Her future. I should say, never see her fall in love, get married, or build a future that she deserved. With her. This smile in her. This.
I hope so, Matt. This audio is really bad. Sorry, guys. I'm sorry, Deanna. We are going to show the whole thing.
Appears the connection is no longer established.
You return it, I can finish reading it, Judge.
I don't know. Let's talk disabilities. I'll look into it.
I'm so sorry. I'm not in a good place with connection. I apologize.
You may continue. We can hear
This
you.
vile and This vile and heartless crime has not only affected and traumatized my family, but so many other families as well. It has also impacted her friends, all of those who knew her, as well as the whole community. There are nights where I can't sleep, nights where I wake up gasping for air, haunted by what Maddie must have gone through.
It's not a federal
I'm
case.
consumed by grief. I carry such an anger that it eats away at me on a daily basis. A depression I never thought was possible. The emptiness touches every moment of every day. And everywhere I look, I see her. I hear her laugh in my memories, and then I remember she's gone, and it destroys me all over again. To know what Maddie went through and how terrified she must have been is unbearable. The thought of her suffering haunts me. The cruelty of what was done to her will never stop echoing in my mind. I asked the court for something that I know I could never really have. Justice. Because real justice would mean that Maddie would be here with us and not you. You still get to wake up every day, something you cruelly stole from her and from us. The way you discarded Maddie as if she was nothing and her life had no value is a true reflection of your evil. The suffering you caused her should be given back to you tenfold. You do not deserve peace. You do not deserve mercy. You deserve to carry the weight of her pain every single day, just how we will carry it for the rest of our lives. And let me be perfectly clear. Where you go after this life will not be where Maddie is. She is in a place of peace surrounded by love. You, on the other hand, will never know peace. You will never see her again. You're not going where she is going. You're going to hell. Thank you, court.
And Stephanie, can you tell the court your first and last name, please?
Stephanie Soto.
Thank you.
Ifer and I went away like 2,000 years ago. We don't do that.
Stephanie Soto, did you get it? I'm sorry.
Ms. Soto, we can hear you. Thank you for your statement.
Thank you.
Your Honor.
Can you tell the court your first and last name and spelling?
Kimberly Vialta. Your Honor, I stand here today to give you a little insight of how loved and
I'm just going to pause here for a second. Susie Q says, Gavin, respectfully, why do you call him Mr. Stearns? I mean, you changed the way you said Soto. I try really hard. Here with Soto, saying Soto is difficult for me. Everybody complained about it, and so I started saying Soto instead of Soto. You'll notice that everybody else, whose last name is actually Soto, says Soto, but it doesn't matter. Okay. Why do I call him Mr. Stearns? It kind of feels like we're in court. It is formal. I tend to call him Mr. Stearns. I don't want to call him Stephan. I don't want to feel like he's my friend. I don't want to feel like I'm on a first name basis with this monster, so I call him Mr. Stearns. Sometimes I just call him Stearns. But I also don't want to go as far as like calling him that monster, that, murderer, that what, because I feel like it invites into my life feelings that I don't want to have, or certainly don't want to accentuate. Like I'm a person, I do not hate Stephen Stearns. There isn't a person in this life. I've never met anybody in this world since I was like 4, when I would tell people I hated them because they were so mean to me. But as a grown person, I try really hard not to have hate in my heart for anyone. So I don't hate him. I think that he's sick. I think that he is a criminal. I think that he did horrible things to Madeline. But I'm just not going to hate him because it doesn't hurt him. First of all, it only hurts me. So I call him Mr. Stearns because I'm not on a first name basis with him, and we're in a formal setting. So that's why I do that. Thank you for your comment. We'll keep going.
how losing Maddie has destroyed my family. Although Maddie was not my blood, I considered her my family. And I loved her like my own niece.
I'll read it. Thank you.
Maddie was a kind and bubbly child and was growing up to be the most amazing young lady. She loved arts and crafts, Taylor Swift, and sour gummy candy.
I love hearing little anecdotes like that. She loved arts and crafts, Taylor Swift, and sour gummy candy. That is the sweetest thing to include, because we lose sometimes that we're talking about a 13-year-old girl whose life not only was taken, but it was taken 5 years ago. For 5 years, it continued to be taken. And it's really easy to forget the victims in this. So I'm just so glad that she brought up the sour candy and arts and crafts. I think that's awesome.
I had the honor and privilege of spending many holidays and special occasions with Maddie over the years, and I will cherish those memories forever.
Sure.
I do not have joy or happiness left in me because this monster took that away from us when he killed Maddie. Every day I feel like life is not worth living anymore because such heinous evil exists in this world. There is not a day that goes by where I do not think about all the pain and suffering that Maddie endured. This monster took advantage of her trust and her innocence. This parasite robbed us of every moment we could have had with Maddie.
Somebody said people are allowed to feel how they feel. Lori said that. They definitely do. 100%. People can feel how they feel. I'm just saying that I recognize that feeling that hate is hurtful to oneself. Now, in this statement here, and I don't blame her, and she can say and feel exactly what she wants. I just feel sad for her because using that prejudicial language, while completely understandable, only hurts her. And then real quick, Carrie said, someone said that Stephan Strange pleaded no contest. The judge pled him guilty. The judge adjudicated him guilty. That's what happened.
And our lives will never be the same. A life sentence is not punishment enough for what he did to Maddie. However, it gives me comfort to know that he will spend the rest of his miserable life in prison. I hope he lives a long and healthy life, so he suffers every single day. Therefore, I ask the court to not take any mercy on this poor excuse of a human when imposing his sentence, because he does not deserve it. Thank you, Your Honor.
Tony, it's called an Alford plea, and it seems like it's
You let the
about
court
same.
know your names.
My name is Tyler Wallace.
Tyler, what's your relationship to Madeline Soto?
Madeline Soto was my daughter.
Go ahead.
All right.
Madeline Soto was my daughter. She was happiness. She was a joy to be around. She was quirky and intelligent. She was curious. A little forgetful like me too. That happens sometimes, but I just
love statements
loved her
like
so much. And I was not able to be in her life as much as I would like to, due to circumstances and choices I'd made, due to the way finances worked. I was strained in my relationship with my daughter, and that was finally getting better. The last time I saw her was in October of 2023, and she had come to visit for a few days. And when I took her back to the airport, I said, you know, you're turning 13 soon. When you turn 13, you have a choice of which guardian you're interested in staying with. Would you like to stay with me and talk to you? And she said yes, that she would. And so I was this close to having my little girl, sir. Because of the actions of this depraved man, I will never meet the woman she was becoming. And I can't grasp it. I can't grasp the selfishness of you, the deplorability of your actions. You're depraved. You're weak. You're a coward. You're a sneak thief. You crept into a family and took advantage and exploited them when they were weak.
This is splitting hairs here for a second, but it's something we can talk about. The statements that they're making should be to the court. Now the court gives broad latitude, right? These are hurting people, and they should give broad latitude. These are hurting people. But one of the rules that you're not supposed to break is you're not supposed to talk to the defendant. You're supposed to talk to the court. That's one of those rules that I think is so, well, I think that by evidence that the evidence that they let, these victims speak to the defendant is an indication that the court understands that they should be able to do that. But by him saying you're a coward and you're a thief, you're a sneak thief, he's technically not supposed to do that. He's supposed to be talking to the judge and the judge only. I was going to bring it up in the one where it was a letter to Madeline. But I think also, the purpose of a victim impact statement is for the court to take that into consideration when passing the sentence. However, I think we also understand as a society that there is some healing and some catharsis when you get your say. And that's just as important too. So I just thought that I'd bring it up so that you guys knew about it. I have seen it in some sentencing hearings where the court admonishes the person to only direct the court. But typically, we completely understand why he would do something like that, and it's totally cool with me. It's just an interesting thing that I thought I'd point out.
It's torn my family apart. It's led to arguments about who can go where and who can get what and who can help who, but we're all on edge because it doesn't heal with time. This isn't like other deaths that I've experienced. This just gets worse. It just gets worse every time I rethink about it and the true horror of what this man did upon her. And I can only hope that he lives a long time in prison and has those same horrors revisited upon him by his fellow inmates. Thank you.
He wants the Schadenfreude too. Very understandable though. Oh, and how, I mean, that was just very well said. This isn't like any other deaths I've experienced. This gets worse with time. Man, that one hit me like a powder keg, man. I think I'm mixing metaphors, but you know what I mean? That one hit me hard. This isn't like other deaths I've experienced. This gets worse with time. It gets harder with time. Wow.
State has no further witnesses.
Okay, let's pause for a second now that we've gone through all the witnesses. Let me just go through a couple of my system refreshed, so I missed some of your comments. But real quick, Kelly, Jen couldn't bring herself to show up for Maddie during her life, abuse, or death. Evil has many faces. Wonder if Stephan Stearns is even reacting at all. Yeah, I kind of doubt it. I bet he's sitting there stoically. He's about to make a statement. We're going to listen to that. Hope his parents say something, says Meredith. Will we ever see Stephan Stearns again? Oh, well, somebody brought up, and I hadn't even thought about this, by pleading no contest, he's not taking the blame. He's just taking the punishment. So maybe Jennifer might be charged with her murder. Maybe. I don't know. This isn't going to show up well, but I'm bringing up. Janet says I'm an awesome human being. Well, don't blow up my pride too much, or my ego too much, Janet, but thank you very much. Derek says Stephanie had such a difficult time doing her statement. Yeah. Heck, Jess, an eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind. Indeed. Cynicism. I am cynical sometimes. That is true. He's a man, which is always the worst type of monster. I don't think I'd agree with you there, Jess. Marco has no problem with me. You guys are helping me with my ego a lot. Thank you very much. Do I think that Jennifer Soto will release a statement? No, I don't. Kelly, but I reserve the right to be wrong. Kelly A says, it refreshed. Hang on. Dang it, where'd it go? I appreciate that you strive for neutrality in presenting these types of truly vile crimes. Thank you. Thank you. It is easy to let the evil in. We should be consuming this kind of content not as like horror porn. We should be consuming it as being advocates for justice, being advocates for victims, being seekers of truth, and being seekers of learning. That's what I think. Marco says monster is adequate in this case. Yeah, so you disagree with me. Ms. Kitty Cat says it sings the type of person Maddie was with those little anecdotes, that somehow through all this she still had the capacity for joy and to share her laughter with others. Yeah, bless her. Yep. You guys are making me feel good about myself. I appreciate it. I haven't seen his parents in court, though. It would be shocking to me if they weren't. Okay, so great comments. Let's go ahead and continue here. What do we have? We have about 23 minutes left. I did include, by the way, at the end of this, there was also kind of a press gaggle with a representative, I think, of Maddie's dad, Tyler Wallace, and his wife, that I've also included.
Defense, any input prior to sentencing? State, do you have additional input?
Can you please tell the court your name?
Okay, my name is Leslie Vajalta.
And how are you related to?
I'm a co-son of Maddie's family.
She's what of Maddie's family?
Most people only know Maddie as the victim of a heinous crime. But I'd like to talk about Maddie today, and I'd like to share some things that I really loved about her. I loved how fearless Maddie was. She was an amazing swimmer. She was a fast learner. The moment she set her mind to something, she did it. That's how she was about everything. She dove into everything head first, and she was so resilient. She had the most beautiful smile. It lit up our entire life. Every Christmas, every Thanksgiving, I was so excited to see her, to talk to her about her life. She's so curious. She's so smart. She could sing. She loved to perform for us. Maddie enjoyed watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Bob's Burgers. She even dressed up as Louise one year for Halloween. And I loved her witty, outspoken personality.
That's sweet.
She's so funny. And that's how I want everyone to leave here thinking about her, remembering her. She lost a lot of privacy towards the end of her life. And I want her to be remembered by her amazing qualities, not the abuse she endured and the exploitation she endured by her abuser.
Great point.
There's not 1 second of my life that I don't think about Maddie. I'll forever celebrate her in my heart and out loud. Maddie was too good for the world, and she did not deserve any of this. Ever since she's been gone, our family, our joy, everything is destroyed. No one smiles anymore. No one laughs. Most days I can't even leave my house. I feel like I can't breathe. And I'm not even her blood relative. I was just so lucky to be a part of her life. He took Maddie away from us. He took away her whole childhood. He took away all her potential that we saw in her, and he took everything from us. And now it's time for him to reap what he sows. This disgusting parasite stole Maddie's youth, her innocence, her life, her joy. He has stolen our sense of safety. I can't sleep. Every time I close my eyes, I see his disgusting face. I can imagine what he did to her. I know every detail. I've read everything. I will never bring children into this world. Because of people like him, depraved, disgusting maggots just like him. He's not the only one. May God forgive him, because I definitely do not. I please ask the court to prosecute him to the fullest extent. Show no mercy, exactly how he did Maddie. Justice for Maddie. Thank you.
Okay.
Nothing further.
Thank you. That's any input prior to
Yes, Your Honor. We would like to thank the State Attorney's Office for sparing Mr. Stearns' life, and we do sincerely hope that this will bring closure and help to start the healing process for Ms. Soto's.
You know, that's sometimes I think defense attorneys get a bad rap. You guys know, just by watching, let's bring up Maddie's face here, just by watching the channel, the fidelity of the law is the most important thing, right? And so we want everybody to have a good, competent defense, even the guilty ones, maybe especially the guilty ones. And I haven't seen it too much in this case, but there has been a little bit of criticism, some condescension, maybe a little bit of vitriol spewed toward Mr. Stearns' defense counsel. But we want them to be good defense counsel. You can, and by her making that statement to me, it says, hey, we're real people here. We are grateful that we've come to a resolution here that puts our client in prison for the rest of his natural life. And we really deeply hope that Madeline Soto's family will be able to get some kind of beginning of healing after this. So while I don't think the closure is a real thing, I appreciate the sentiment from the attorney.
court has accepted Mr. Stearns' plea of no contest for the first-degree premeditated murder of Madeline Soto and his plea of guilty to 8 counts of sexual battery on Madeline Soto under the age of 12, sexual battery upon Madeline Soto between the ages of 12 and 18 in a familial custodial role, and lewd or lascivious molestation, counts 14 through 20. State, do you have an announcement as to the notice of intent to seek the penalty of death?
Oh, they're circling back around to
Your Honor,
this.
we will waive the notice of intent to seek death. We will file an electronic null pros for counts 21 through 60, and we are also asking that you inquire about waiving a PSI, just in abundance of caution.
Based on the announcement from the state of Florida,
So he's pleading guilty to 20 counts. Null pros means they're dropping counts 21 through 60. And the PSI he's talking about is pre-sentencing investigation.
maximum potential sentence in these cases is life in prison without the possibility of parole, as the notice of intent to seek the penalty of death has been waived. Ms. Smith, as to 2024 CF 632, is there a waiver of an entitlement to a pre-sentence investigation?
Yes, Judge.
Ms. Borden, as to the remaining case 2024 CF 1293, is there a waiver of entitlement to a pre-sentence investigation?
Yes, he is not entitled to a PSI on this.
Thank you.
Okay, so they will not do a PSI, and that's why we got sentencing so quickly, right? No pre-sentencing investigation. He's not entitled to it. Here we go.
The court has had an opportunity to hear the anguish and the fury of shattered families. Everyone in the gallery has had an opportunity to hear the anguish and the fury of community mourning and permanently diminished. Folks joining us around the state and the country remotely have heard the opportunity to hear the anguish and fury of a meaningful future that was stolen and a beautiful promise of Madeline Soto's life extinguished permanently. Stephan Stearns, you have had the opportunity to hear that anguish and fury from your actions. As to first-degree premeditated murder of Madeline Soto, you are adjudicated guilty and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. As to the capital sexual battery of Madeline Soto while she was under the age of 12, for each count you are sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. For the sexual battery of Madeline Soto between the ages of 12 and 18, you are adjudicated guilty and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Yeah, stoic. He's probably had lots of time to think about this moment.
Lewd and lascivious molestation of Madeline Soto, you are sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. These sentences will run concurrently, meaning at the same time. The state of Florida has withdrawn their notice of intent to seek the penalty of death. These are the maximum sentences permitted to the court.
So 21 sentences of life without the possibility of parole to run concurrently. Because how does it help to run consecutively?
Each case will have court costs that will be reduced to a civil judgment.
As to 2024 CF 632, court costs are $11,163. As to 24 CF 1293, $666.
I feel like that's a low
Incorporates
cost.
the addendum to the plea form as to each plea in 2024 CF 632 and 2024 CF 1293. Not announced You are adjudicated guilty as to counts 1 through 8, 24 CF 632. State any further sentencing considerations?
Yes, Your Honor. With regards to count 14 through count 20 and 24 CF 632, the court sentenced to life in prison, there is a 25-year minimum mandatory with that as well. The state also provided the court with a score sheet which encompasses counts 9 through 20. It includes penetration and contact points as well. A copy of that has been provided to defense as well and the court. I haven't been made aware of any corrections or additions or subtractions.
Do not have a copy of the score sheet.
Should be with the plea form, Your Honor.
It's not. I'm going to need a copy of the score sheet, please.
Score sheet they're talking about is when you look at the way that the statutes are written, there basically you have to tally up, okay, he did this and it was under these circumstances, oh, but he did this also, and so that makes that one, this kind of score. And they have to, it's a very complex system of tallies and measures in order to get to a place where they submit it to the judge. Hey, this crime is a whatever 17 on the score sheet, whatever their scale is, right? This happens from small misdemeanors all the way up to the worst felonies like we're watching here. So it's part of the duty of the district attorney or state's attorney to go through and tally everything up, provide it to the defense to make sure that they agree with it, and then provide it to the court.
Ms. Smith, Ms. Borden, the total sentence points pursuant to the Criminal Punishment Code score sheet are 1,278 with a lowest permissible prison sentence in months of 937.5 months. That doesn't include
937 months is the minimum allowed. It's 78 years.
sexual penetration points of 80 times 5 and sex contact points of 40 times 7. Any errors, corrections, or omissions to the score sheet? Ms. Smith? Ms. Borden?
No, Your Honor.
The 25-year minimum mandatory sentence as to the counts requiring a minimum mandatory sentence are imposed. You will have the right to appeal the judgment and sentences of the court. If you wish to do so, you must do so in writing within the next 30 days. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed for you.
When he's talking about the appeal, he's talking about the sentencing. You have the right to appeal what I have sentenced you to. It's not, yeah.
The appeal will be limited to the jurisdiction of the court to impose the sentence and the legality of the sentence itself. As a condition of your agreement with the state of Florida, you are agreeing not to appeal the pretrial rulings of the court. State, anything else? Defense, anything else? Thank you. Let's place Mr. Stearns under, he's been previously placed under oath.
Yes, Your Honor, I would like to make a brief statement. I agree that it's not fair that Madeline is not here anymore. I still have a hard time contemplating a world where she's not around, a world which feels less vibrant and less colorful than it did before. I've prayed to God countless times to trade places with her, to take me instead. And unfortunately, that's just not how he works. I have nothing but sorrow for her loss. and I miss her all the time. Her passing has torn me and my family apart as well.
Her
And she
passing.
truly was a joy. I pray to God that she is in heaven and that He's taking good care of her. And I hope she gets to join the choir because she had a beautiful voice. I will miss her all the time. I will never not honor her memory.
What?
And I apologize for all the pain.
Okay. First of all, Madeline didn't pass. Madeline was snatched. Her life was snatched from her. There was no passing. It does sound like he's not taking responsibility for it. Like he's saying somebody else did that part of it. Like he's saying, yeah, I did all the other stuff, but somebody else did the murdering. Okay, so I see what you guys have been saying in the comments. That is pretty darn infuriating. Her passing. Her passing. Oh my goodness.
Anything further, defense? Conclude our plea and sentencing hearing. We'll be in recess.
Okay, so that's the end of that. I'm just going to let this play. Well, I'm just going to let it play because here in just a moment, we're going to see the representative. Here in just a moment, we're going to see the representative of Maddie's dad and stepmom. Give me just a second. Oh my goodness. Just looking at his face actually angers me a bit. I hate to feel that way. So the courtroom is going to be cleared. Let's get to, we don't have to watch all this. Okay. We're going to go here.
Thank you for coming back. We appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. No, that's. Here, let me just take this down. So obviously, Mr. Wallace and Tatiana going through and listening to everything that they had to listen to, it's obviously affecting them a great deal. So they're just going to need a little bit of time. But they do want to speak on behalf of Maddie at some point. They're just not in a great headspace right now to address that. But if you guys want to leave me your contact information, we can definitely circle back when they're in a little bit of a better headspace.
Can you tell us if they support this agreement, especially the no contest to the murder charge?
Yes. They're obviously with a trial coming out, and the sex crimes trial was going to be starting on Tuesday. That's a lot of videos. It's their little girl. And I think he recognizes that Stephan Stern is going to die in prison. The death penalty is you die in prison. And he is not getting out ever. And I think that he understands that, and he understands the trade-off in terms of, okay, he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison, and my little girl does not have to essentially go through this, and the family go through all of this. And it also takes away all the appeals in terms of, with a death penalty case, the lack of closure that comes with a death penalty case, because the appeals are never ending, essentially. And so this is really, it's a step. Nothing changes the facts. Nothing ever will change the facts, but it's a step for them to get closure.
What do they make of Stern's statement in court, his apology?
An apology? I mean, I can't speak for them. I can tell you that I thought it was disgusting.
Good for her.
I did not take that as an apology. I took that as he misses her. for whatever motive or reason he misses her.
Good for her.
And I was disgusted by it. But again, I'm not speaking for them when I say that.
The no contest plea, a lot
Sure.
of people are saying, hey, he's not necessarily admitting guilt to the murder of Madeline. Does the family feel that others are involved, or if Stearns did this himself and no other people involved?
No, like I said, they're okay with this outcome. However you get Stephan Stern life in prison without any hope of ever getting out. And I think in his final statements that he made to the court, where he's a former Marine, he understands what life in prison as a sex offender means, and I think he has come to a certain level of peace with that outcome. Everything else is really kind of ticky-tacky in terms of, all right, how does he get there? But the bottom line is he's getting there, and he's never getting out.
When did the family find out about the plea agreement?
It was last week.
Yeah, but did you see the mother in the courtroom today, or did I just miss her?
When you refer to the mother, do you refer to
mother-
Jennifer Soto?
Yes.
I did not see her in the courtroom.
Did you find that odd at any means?
Not for me to say.
A smart answer.
Did they expect this plea agreement? Did they know something was coming down the pipeline?
Yes, and I will say the state attorney's office has been wonderful in terms of the communication, in terms of getting their input, in terms of sitting down with them. William J. and Danielle Pinnell, they put their heart and souls into this case. They were there and available for any questions that anybody had. They didn't try to rush anything. They didn't try to force anything. This was very much conversations that took place in terms of what, and again, in a case like this, there's never going to be any like joy or happiness. There's not going to be a resolution where everybody is like, that's great. But it is a matter of, well, what can you live with? And what does it mean for the family? And what does it mean for Maddie, quite honestly, moving forward? Nobody wants to be in a position where, and no offense to you guys, we appreciate you very much, but the media exposure in a child sex case, where that's what's going to be written about for weeks on ends, if not months. And obviously, if you have the ability to have closure without that having to happen, where essentially the same outcome, where he will in fact die in prison. And I think that is what the big picture was, and that was the goal. And I think that was achieved today.
There were a lot of law enforcement officers in the courtroom. Does the family have any thoughts on the case that law enforcement built, especially in those early days?
They're really appreciative. They actually were
Law
really
enforcement did a good job.
overwhelmed with the support, and they really appreciate the fact that, law enforcement, they're there when they're not in a position to help their daughter. Sometimes you have to rely on other people, and they're very appreciative of the work that law enforcement and the prosecution did in this case.
Deborah, speak if you can. Remember the years of being a state prosecutor. Does it make a difference, even though the out cue was the same, that he pled no contest to some things, one guilty to others? Does it make a difference, even though the outcome's the same?
No. It's basically, it doesn't really have any legal significance. And so the fact that he went no contest and guilty, okay. And
that's how I felt.
What's next for the family?
Well, that's a good question, and I don't even think they know the answer to that. I can't imagine how you move on from this, and I think, Tyler said it best in terms of describing his emotions earlier today, where he's like, this type of death is so unique that unfortunately with time, it's actually gotten worse for him mentally, because I think he has more time to think about it and to think about exactly what happened to his little girl. And so it is.
Can't even imagine.
It's hard, and it's going to be hard, but they're gonna get through it.
Many of us know you quite well. For those out there that don't, do you mind just saying and spelling your name?
Sure, yeah, I'm sorry. My name's Deborah Barra, Deborah, last name Barra, B as in boy, Arra.
Thank you. That's one more question. Has Stephan Stearns' parents ever reach out to the family to offer apologies, any type of talk, communication whatsoever?
Not to my knowledge.
Interesting.
Yes, thank you guys.
Okay, so Deborah Barra is a former, first 17 years as a prosecutor in Orange and Osceola County. Past 3 is the chief counsel for the sheriff of Osceola County. As a prosecutor, she became the chief assistant and supervised all the 165 prosecutions in Orange and Osceola County. She was also the chief of the sex crimes division, chief of the grand jury, and on the DP board. She has tried over 150 jury trials. So yeah, they know her very, very well. And I felt the same way that that she does. Like I don't care if it was guilty or no contest. Ultimately it's the exact same conclusion. Now, a couple of you have brought up, well, if he's not saying that he did it, does that leave the door open for charges against Jennifer Soto? I think that might. It might. It'd be it'd be nice to talk to an attorney about that. Okay, my system is refreshed. You guys have been talking so much, which I deeply appreciate, but I'm going to miss a lot of them. I'm very sorry about that. Mooney, super fanatic for 16 months, says, I think Stephan Stearns admitted to the SA because he's hoping for protective custody. Yeah, probably. Probably. Good call. Naomi, welcome to Fanatic. Appreciate you. Susan Lewis gifted some memberships. Thank you, Susan. I appreciate you there. Awesome. Let me just get back to as high as I can go. Yeah, he acts like he didn't do it. He still doesn't admit guilt. Yeah, we're never going to get satisfaction on that one, guys. We're just not going to get satisfaction on it. And I guess we're going to have to deal with it. However, I'll put my face big for this one. Who cares what he thinks? Who cares? Doesn't matter. Does not matter at all. Celeste says, sorry for the pain. The I caused part must be one of those silent letter things. Yeah. Yeah. Mooney agrees. All the pain you caused. Interesting. And sorry, guys. I'm cutting up little lozenges into little pieces. A couple of weeks ago in I have been GF supporter for some time, not fair treatment. I'm not following you. Sorry, man. That's why I think he came in after Jen did something and he disposed of her body. I think that's what maybe his parents think. It's possible. Possible. He thinks he's the victim. Yeah. Mr. Gavin, let's add the word hate to your vocabulary. I don't, there, it's just such a useless emotion. I mean, it's not like I'm incapable of it, but there are just some things that hate is something that eats you, doesn't eat anybody else. So it doesn't matter. Shelley says he refers to her passing yeah, he does on the calls with his parents and stuff. She passed. Yeah. And it's stupid. Heck just says, I meant man is the worst type of monster, not men. Oh, I see. Mankind. I see what you're saying. Thank you, Scott. I appreciate that. Let me just keep on going here. What's on his neck? We're talking about Stephan Stearns. Let me go back. I'm going to mute this so we don't have to listen to it, but is there anything on his neck that I see? On Stephan Stearns' neck. I see his identification tag up there. I'm going to bring him back. Let's see here. Bunk. I don't see anything. I mean, his beard has that weird colorization, color, blah, blah, blah down there. I don't see anything on his neck, but I don't know. Irata lady, he shows no remorse and his admission to the crime seemed prideful to me, very similar to Koberger. Yeah, we're never going to get satisfaction that he is remorseful. And we also don't spend our tax dollars on pathetic appeals. Yep. Shelley says, where is Jen? She's a piece of work as well. Her family did not mention her once. I totally believe she's part of the horrible death. That is an interesting thing. Let's get his face off of here. They refer to Madeline's family. They don't ever refer to Jen. They never did. Tony says he gets to skirt around and not take accountability for his actions once again. I respectfully disagree. He's definitely taken the punishment for his actions. Maybe in his heart he's saying I didn't do it, but who cares what he thinks? Who cares? Woman of Steel, do you think Stephan Stern's parents could have been watching from another room in the courthouse or remotely? I mean, the judge did say that there were people that were joining remotely. I would not want to be in the same room with Maddie's family, especially in light of the fact that their recordings came out and stuff like that. But I don't think they were there. Notice she didn't answer the question about the murder plea. The attorney, Ms. Barra? No, I think she did. I think she's like, it doesn't matter. Legally, it's the exact same thing. But maybe I'm misunderstanding you. What did Stephan Stearns actually do to Maddie as to cause her death? She died by manual strangulation. Former Marine. She is talking about Tyler Wallace, Mr. Wallace. By the way, I would quibble because I'm a professional quibbler at former Marine. There are no former Marines. There are Marines and there are people that are not Marines. But yeah, Mr. Wallace he served in the United States Marine Corps. Susie says Maddie's hyoid bone was broken. Is he trying to pretend that Jen did that? Meds, neglect, exposure could be Jen, but the strangulation doesn't make sense. I'm blanking right now on his name, but I'm embarrassed that I'm blanking on his name. Give me just 1 second. I'm going to bring it up. There is a really good video that I did with Brian Bennett. That's who it is. Who is a manual strangulation expert. It does not take a lot of pressure to cause somebody to die by manual strangulation. It doesn't take a lot of strength. It could have been Jen. It could have been Stephan. I was interested that the hyoid was broken in that she was so young, and the horn shape of the hyoid bone, like it's actually 3 different bones, and as we grow up, the 2 major horns fuse to the little horseshoe thing, right? So at 13, her hyoid bone would have been very pliable. And the fact that one of the horns was broken does indicate that there was a lot of force. But I mean, it does sound like I just contradicted myself, but yeah, I don't know. We would have to get somebody on. Maybe we could bring Joseph Scott Morgan back on to talk about this. Yeah, that would be somebody I should call Joseph. He does have a right to speak actually. Morally, it's reprehensible, but his right is definitely there. Couple more before we go. Wasn't Stephanie the sister of Jen on the virtual call? Isn't Jen living with Stephanie? It was Stephanie Soto that was on the call, the Zoom call. We heard her voice. I have heard that Jen is living with a sister. I do not know if it's true, and I don't know if it's Stephanie, but I have heard that. Phoenix Rising saying, not even a written statement provided to be read from Mommy Dearest, consciousness of guilt. Could be. Yeah, could be. Heck, Jess understands. She gets it. We had a couple of visitors today I have a buddy from high school who lost a battle with cancer back in, I want to say 2019. I'm getting that wrong. He's been gone probably longer than I think. Maybe 2020. Doesn't matter. His father came out here about a year ago because my friend wanted to have his ashes scattered in all of the major league ballparks, and he was out here in Western Pennsylvania. It was at PNC Park where the Pirates play, and so I went down and met him there, and to watch the game, and he honored his son, my friend. Anyway, he came back through today, and with his brother, they're both Navy guys. Of course, these are men that are the age of like my parents, right? So they're in their 70s, maybe even close to 80. And we were talking about Marine Corps versus Army versus Navy versus Air Force. My father's in Air Force. And yeah, it's just so funny the difference. Like, once a Marine, always a Marine. One of my dad's best friends uh, was a Marine, and like stereotypical Marine. Of course, my dad was an Air Force guy. So, I mean, for 40 years, those guys poked and jabbed at each other over that. It's pretty funny. Oh, this is a good point, Sandra. He was dishonorably discharged, so no, he's no Marine. He went to prison over weapons theft. I had forgotten that. I think that does qualify as being a former Marine. You're right. You are right. Um, let's see if anything else comes in here. Robin thinks I should call Joseph. I definitely should. Yeah, I'll invite him on. He's always open for a chat. Angie saying, do you think it's possible Stephen Stearns killed Maddie during his abuse of her, therefore he doesn't feel as premeditated? I do think that's possible. Yes. Yes, I do. And thank you. My buddy Eric was a good man, and he was a good kid too. And his dad went through a very, very hard time. He lost his son, his wife, and his son-in-law in less than a year. And he's doing a very good job living his life, having experienced so much loss. Yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate that. Kelly says, Gavin, they asked the rep if Stephan pleading no contest to the murder meant the others could be involved, or if the family thought Stephan did alone. She simply said they're okay with the outcome. That is true. That's what she said. Yeah, you guys, great comments as always. I'm just going to try to see if I can get anything. Phoenix Rising saying, I noticed that family members or friends barely mention Jen, not even to say that she's so destroyed she couldn't be. Yeah, they don't. That is true. I should bring up Maddie. Sorry. Looks like a bruise almost on his neck. Maybe. I can't tell. His beard is so weird. Hey, and this is coming from a guy, I'm not judging it. I've got a weird beard too. But yeah, I can't tell. Oh, I'm glad you're here, D. No more root beer barrels and book reviews. I think he's going to spend the rest of his life eating root beer barrels and reading books. Yeah, he was. That was one of the poor choices that he made. He was dishonorably discharged from the Marine Corps. I remember that specifically in his in several pieces of evidence and reports and so forth. Tony says, "What if Maddie was your child? Do you think you'd feel the same?" Well, that is a poignant question. It's a good question. I don't know the answer to it. I always try to put myself in the position. I always try to empathize. I know that I can't in this case, so I do my best to sympathize. And yeah, I have 5 children, and what if my child's life was ripped away from her or him? Would I feel differently? I might. Actually, I would go as far as to say I probably would. I hope it doesn't ever happen to me, and on this side of that kind of tragedy, I feel like I can be a little more logical and rational rather than emotional. And I still think that I'm in the right place. I think that hate is destructive. It's self-destructive. Now, your point is a good one. I've never been in their shoes. So there's no judgment. Well, there is judgment, but the judgment is because I deeply care for their health and well-being moving forward. Another experience that it's not my experience. Another thing that I know of that I witnessed in the lives of people around me. When we lived back in California, we have friends whose daughter was the same age as my little sister, who lost her life when a drunk driver, a teenage boy, or a young man, I can't remember his exact age, but young man drove drunk and hit their daughter and killed her. And these are people, I mean, this happened 30 years ago. Close. It's got to be close to that. Maybe 25 years ago, something like that. So I've interacted with these friends of our family for a long time. One of the things that they did is they recognized we can't spend the rest of our lives hating this man. That will only destroy us. They've told us this story so many times. And in his sentencing hearing, they asked for mercy for that young man, saying that their daughter's life was taken. Please don't take this young man's life. Let him learn from this. Let him grow from this. So I'm a third party observer. I hope that Madeline's family will be able to move forward. You guys can tell when I talk about my high school friend or my childhood friend that I'm deeply hurt by those things. And those were illnesses, different things. So here I am. I mean, Danny died. We were 14. I'm 49. That was 35 years ago. And it's still extremely painful. So I know that the pain won't ever go away, but I hope that the happiness, the joyful moments return. That's all I'm saying. But great. That is a great question, Tony. I appreciate you asking it. Yeah, a couple more things before we go. Sandra says, my son was murdered. Yes, I had hate. Took years to get to a point of forgiveness. Same outcome. She got life without parole. Without the possibility of parole. Sandra, I'm very, very sorry for you. And I hope that I'm right in the way that I feel. Thank you for your comment. Thanks for the extra long stream, Gavin. Very good reason for it. Yeah. Little Miss Maddie. This, I hope, is the end of our coverage of Maddie's case. We've been covering this since almost the beginning. I think this is the 100th video that we've done on Maddie's case. This is a young woman that probably most of us here never met, never knew, but she is a representative of a hidden group of victims. And she, to me, has become their champion. And that's why I had Anna Soto on, for example. Let's talk about prevention of this kind of thing to more little girls and little boys, so that they don't have, so that they're not victimized in the same way. Sandra does agree with me. Thank you very much. I'm glad that I feel that I'm on the right path there. Angie says, one thing we can all take solace is that Maddie will not be re-victimized by images and vile details coming out in the trial and relived again and again through death appeals. Very well spoken. Yes. Thank you very much for that. Angelica says, it would be hard not to harbor hate for someone who killed your child. It takes a very strong person to forgive. Indeed. Indeed, it has to. I pray that I know that there is at least one, maybe more, that have felt that pain. I pray for the rest of us that we never do. Hey, thanks for joining me tonight, guys, and thanks for being understanding. I wish we could have done this live during the hearing. I am working toward being able to do that more often, so that we can spend a little time together doing, watching hearings and commenting on it. Along the way, remember that we've got the great 2025 Baby Gavin Treasure Hunt still going. There's still prizes up, still prizes available. Check it out if you haven't already. It's just a fun little thing. We take our victims seriously. We take crime seriously. We don't take ourselves seriously. Sometimes we just have to have a little fun, and the treasure hunt is a way to do that. So I invite you to join us. Also, remember that we are on Facebook. Just search for the fish tank and you'll find it. Or if you come to gavinfish.com and click on this little fishy, it'll take you to it. And there's always a link down below. All right. With that, guys, thank you for joining me once again. I bid you adieu, and I will see you on the next one. Take care. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below.